Welcome everybody back to Boost Motion, guys. And today, I've been told by you guys to make a heat exchanger video for your Q50, Q60, and Nissan Z. So guys, let's jump into the video. First thing, much love, appreciate my Boost in Motion family for always supporting me over the years. You guys have asked me to make an upgraded heat exchanger video. I'm not going to go through the different heat exchangers on the market. The reason why I'm going to say it within the first 30 seconds of the video, most of them are the same copycats. Yes, I freaking said it. Yes, most of them are very similar copycats. The reason why I'm saying that is most of them make similar designed heat exchangers from AMS to AAM competition. Shout out to them, they sponsored the Q60. They were one of the slightly bigger ones, but most of them are very similar in the threshold with the amount of fluid or ounces they hold in their heat exchanger systems and where they bolt up and pretty much where they bolt up to. They all have very similar designs. So you can choose to pick your poison between those from AM to AMS to Z1 Motorsports. Some are even painted black. So I made that a lot easier for you, and honestly telling you, they all work very great. But for the ones that look a little different than the rest, let's talk a little bit about them. So you do have the ones that are more on the cheaper end. Burger Tuning still makes their heat exchanger. The Burger Tuning heat exchanger, if you want to take a look at it, is a little bit cheaper than the ones on the market. But the way that it mounts is a little bit lower in the front bumper, and it works quite well. But knowing that you can spend a little bit of money and get a bigger heat exchanger with a larger capacity and more surface area, theoretically, they both will work great. But because you're adding more fluid and more surface area, the flat surface on the heat exchanger, the recovery or the cooling, yes, the cooling of the coolant in the heat exchanger or air to water intercoolers will be a lot quicker as you're driving, right? Now, I want to sit there and say this on video. No matter if you live in 110-degree weather or 10-degree weather, no matter if it's Celsius or if it's Fahrenheit, the heat exchanger system is going to heat up regardless. It's going to, because the turbos are compressing air, and compressed air becomes hot, and that hot air is going through coolant so it can actually cool the charge going before it goes into the motor and it has any predestination or knock. So that's why we go with a larger heat exchanger system, so we can add more coolant to the system, add more efficiency in cooling with the additional surface area on it. And yeah, that's why we do that, right? So you also have on a cheaper end, I'm talking about, I don't know if guys even still do it, frozen boosts or any DIY heat exchanger system that aren't technically made to bolt up to the Q50, Q60 Nissan Zs. These are really cheaper because you're really just getting the unnamed, not branded heat exchangers, and you pretty much weld in your own tabs, and you find somewhere in the front of the vehicle where you can have a decent amount of airflow, and these will work quite well too, and you save quite a much on using them. A lot of tuners will still sit there and say, hey, it's best to go with the ones that work primarily for the car, that bolt up to the car, because it gives more of an OEM look. It's an upgrade over the OEM heat exchanger, but these additional ones can be pretty good or just as good or maybe even better. I've seen on the market that even some of the aftermarket ones have dual pass or triple pass heat exchangers, not air to water intercoolers, heat exchangers that sit to the front. So they might still be close to the price of the OEM ones, but that's actually pretty dope. I don't want to get into the dual pass, triple pass. I shouldn't have dropped that as a wording, but let's just think about it like this. Your heat exchanger has one pass. It comes from in to out. It has in, cools, and then goes out towards back to the motor. Dual pass is something where it goes in, cool, and then goes to the second pass, back in, cool, and come out, and then it goes to the engine. So that's what you call dual pass, right? And triple pass, 1, 2, 3, back to the engine. So that would give you your coolant more time to cool down cool down the coolant, which should give you lower coolant temperature, which should give you lower charge air temperatures. But that's not something this platform I've really seen yet for the heat exchangers yet, unless it's the AMS, top AMS one. I think there still is single pass. Sorry, guys, I can't remember off that. I haven't been in the community for a while. Don't beat me up. Now that I spoke about the big dog one, you have the biggest heat exchanger that's on the market from AMS. AMS make the cheaper ones. They have the cheaper ones that are around the similar price as the regular ones. They look similar, but they have a race one where they actually relocate a bracket. That one has the largest capacity. So it is a big dog. It is an expensive dog. But if you know you want to get the maximum, the biggest heat exchanger on the market, you can go with that one. Now, I'm going to give an honorable mention, my own personal honorable mention, right? What you can do is this, too. A lot of people done this additional stuff, right? I've done it. Don't make fun of me because I'm an idiot, right? So on my Q50, I actually had a dual pass. I actually kept the OEM unit, right? And then I was sponsored by Burger Tuning some years ago, and I had installed their heat exchanger. So I made a dual pass heat exchanger Q50. Yep. So it ran through what happened. Yeah, it ran through the OEM heat exchanger first, very quick. Then it ran through the Burger Tuning one, and then went back to the car. Well, some of the downfalls of doing this is, well, there's a different sizing difference. The OEM heat exchanger is relatively small, which should lower the amount of flow limit, or the pressure should drop, and or the flow limit. I'm sorry with the theoretical words right now. It's not in my head right now, but the speed of how fast the coolant will flow will slow down because it's a lot more pressure, or it's a lot more drag. I can't say drag because that's actually dealing with air. The coolant ain't moving as fast, okay? All right, because you have smaller pipes, all right? That's it. So it actually hinders the performance, and the OEM pumps have to pump it harder and harder because there's more coolant, but there's less flow, all right? Cool. Now, I spoke about just now pumps. If you don't have a red sport, you're going to have a single pump, right? And if you have a 3.0 T Sport, I think you should still have a single pump. I can't remember. It's been a minute. You can go with upgraded pumps. Check out pumps on my video, auxiliary pumps. Go look at it. I don't really want to make updated video on pumps because there's not really much in the market, and there's not really much videos to speak about it. I can go into a short. But AMS does make an upgraded pump, OEM pump, which flows a lot of fluid. So you can replace your OEM pumps, and well, actually your biggest OEM pump, and increase the amount of coolant and how quickly it moves and recovers fast. I do give them that. They really do want to make OEM better. Shout out to AMS Performance for that. And you can always add an additional one because if you're not a red sport, you don't have it. So you can actually add an additional secondary pump where a couple of companies make the secondary auxiliary pump that you can install that's OEM that bolts up. This increases, once again, the flow of the coolant, so it actually allows your car to recover quicker. So I do recommend that if you do choose to want to care very much more about performance. But if you're pretty chilled, you know you're not doing too much, and you don't want to spend that extra money, understand this is not so you can gain more wheel horsepower. This is so that you can keep the most amount of performance before you fully heat soak. That's really honestly it. Because once you're hot, man. If it's 110 degrees, you can't do nothing about it. No matter how much pumps you have, how much coolant you have, it just mitigates or slows down how hot the coolant will get as you keep beating on the car in the summer heat. If you're in a winter place like me, New York City, where we get winter and then we get summer, oh man, boost weather is amazing. But for you guys who live down south, honestly, the best thing for you to pretty much bring this video to a close, I would add this rest of this to the video. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. You can also add more coolant to the car. This is the honorable mentions now too. You can also add a fender tank. This is when you actually take off your fender, or not take off your fender, but you'll put a fender, a tank, a huge tank that adds like 1.5 gallons. I think 2 companies make AMS and Z1, and that adds more coolant to your system. Now, some people might sit there and say, this is great because now your car won't heat soak as fast, which is true. But now you added so much more coolant to the system, your pump is really, once again, working even harder. It wasn't moving around as much coolant before, but now it's really working around a lot more coolant. It's going to have a hard time. Mine worked perfectly fine, but if I had 2 pumps, it would have worked a lot better. You know what I'm saying? It would have been a lot more consistent. The recovery time for the air charge and the air coolant temperature would have dropped a little bit faster or a lot faster, right? But I didn't have that set up on my car. And then if you sit there and think about it, well, if you want to play with things, maybe, I hate to say play with things like that, but maybe you just keep the OEM heat exchanger and just add a fender tank. You might slow down the flow of the coolant, but you added a large capacity of amount of coolant to your system. You know what I'm saying? So theoretically, you would want to do the fender tank and the heat exchanger, but honestly, for the everyday car, you don't have to do these things, man. This is I honestly have doing that twice. I did it on my Q50 and my Q60. Doing it twice, like some of the stuff isn't necessary. You want to buy stuff for your car, I get it, but at some point you're like, yo, it is what it is. So I would skip the fender tank. You also have the different coolant reservoirs you can choose to add a little bit more coolant, but that stuff is more for dress up. That's for the look of the car, honestly. It makes the engine bay look a little bit better because you get rid of the cheesy looking or white color, yellow color reservoirs, and you go with the black ones. They look kind of nice. And then I'll in this part, I don't think I'm gonna make a separate video again. I should, but air to water intercoolers. What is it? 2 to 3 companies make it now. You can also add more coolant to the system, going with these larger air to water intercoolers. Some of them are single pass, some of them are dual pass, depending on the brand. But they are expensive units. They are expensive units, and I'm a big a-hole and say this on video. Before they were ever made, there were still fast Q50s out here with stock ones. You know what I'm saying? We did all these upgrades to the heat exchanger, fender tank, reservoir tanks, all these other coolant upgrades, right? We even added anyway, we did all of this, and then we added that. So in my head, it's like you're going to spend another $1,400 on air-to-water intercoolers, and if you just get that, it's not going to really change much of the performance of your system. All of them are accessory modifications that work best together. The best one there is technically the heat exchanger. That is the staple. Anything past that will just add more coolant to the system. And the air to water intercoolers adds a little bit more efficiency to the system and should increase the flow of the coolant and the flow of the charge air going into the motor. But this is just so you can save power or mitigate it. That's really it. So I'd rather save $2,000 to do a heat exchanger. That's it. Just do the heat exchanger, slap that girl in there, call it a day. That's it. I don't care if you have 1 pump or 2 pumps. I'm sorry anybody's watching. I'm sorry tuners that are watching. But you guys know you would want them to get the best, but everybody's pocket's not the same. But if a person like me, I got some money to spend now, I finally grew up, Boost grew up a little bit, then yeah, I would want to get the fender tank, and I would still do the fender tank, and I would do the extra pump. I wouldn't do the air to water intercoolers, though. I think they're an expensive piece that really doesn't yield that much additional performance. Sorry for any company who made those parts, but yeah, I put a lot of time and energy for it, but those parts are supposed to be for a specific amount of people who care about that. But the average A people, things are priced the way they're priced because, number one, how expensive it is for them to make it, R&D it, and then sell it to you. But then also they understand that not everybody's going to buy it, so they can find that price point, and then people will just shoot. All right? So outside of that, guys, I hope I answered all the videos about heat exchangers, fender tanks, reservoirs, and air to water intercoolers, and pretty much how to set it up. And I gave my recommendations on which ones to choose, not brands, but which ones to choose. All right. So outside of that, guys, we have good morning, good afternoon, good night. I really appreciate you guys for supporting your boy Boost over the years, man. Type below. Let me know below what you might want me to talk about. I'm going through some of my old videos to see what I can actually make updated videos about. That'll be really good for the people in 2024, the old people who just purchased in this car as a second or third owner. And pretty much there's a bunch of just clout videos out there for the VR30 or like shout out to the young dudes, but y'all just making videos like vlogging videos, but y'all not giving out really good information. People need that, People need that. All right. So I appreciate you guys. You guys have a good day. Thank you.